Leaders Live, where I get the chance to chat with luminaries in e-discovery and related areas.
Welcome to eDiscovery Leaders Live, hosted by ACEDS and sponsored by Reveal. I am George Socha, Senior Vice President of Brand Awareness at Reveal. Typically, we do this each Friday morning, but this week is ILTA. So we are here live twice daily at ILTA, interviewing folks for 15 minutes each. I'm changing up the format a bit for this. And my first guest today is Chip Delany from
Lineal.
Someone else keeps saying Lineal, which throws me off entirely.
Yeah, and then when you throw an Australian accent into that, it can be something different again. So
absolutely. So Chip, I would like to start out by asking you the first of my three sets of questions I have for you here, and this is going to be an easy set. And it starts with, who are you?
Yeah.
Who do you work with, and what do you do?
So my name's Chip Delany. I'm the strategy director at Lineal. And what we do is we're a full-service e-discovery firm. So we provide litigation services, we provide data analytics, we work a lot in information governance, but really a globally based soup to nuts of everything you could do with legal data.
And you can see we're here live with all the problems that come with being live.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mates lingering around left, right, and center.
I know, such a problem.
I know.
Now, Lineal did not start out in the U.S.
No, we didn't. No, Lineal's actually, as a brand, has been around since 2010. So Lineal was very much a London-based e-discovery services firm, London-based law firm clients, and then Lineal was reborn in 2019. So a lot of the guys who used to work at Iris, a lot of the management board had come across, wanted to essentially bring the team back together, but focus the whole thing around this big change in artificial intelligence and everything that's opening up around new ways to look at and think of data. So, you could say for anyone who was familiar with the Iris guys, it's a bit of an Iris 2.0, right? How can we do something new and big and bold? But yeah, Lineal's now a global brand. So,
and the 1.0 was new and bold.
It was very new and bold. It brought managed services into the fray. Started to think about things a lot differently and how can you be more efficient as an infrastructure of managing client data. But we're in this really kind of weird stage now where, AI was something that was a buzzword and now it has real applications and we're starting to see people invest in it heavily. So it's changing the whole space in a few ways. It's making it kind of interesting as a services provider about, well, okay, we have data and we've got this amazing technology. What can we do with it that we're not thinking about? And getting the clients to come on that ride with us because we can show them, look at all this amazing stuff we can do. They're the ones that can often say, oh, that's really interesting, this little thing over here that I wasn't really thinking about. And so, yeah, the team's really now building around this new vision of using AI to do something new and innovative.
Are you getting the client participation in this process that you hope for?
Massively. Because there's a lot of existing relationships that all of us have. And so there's experience in working with people and, breaking down whatever the problem is and building it up again from scratch. And so they're very open and looking to go on this journey with us. And it's been fun. Because like I said, there's a lot of it which is, and am I assuming that this is what they want to do with their data? Like, I think this is really cool. It's amazing what this technology does or whatever it might be. But having someone there that's like, yeah, no, definitely, I can put aside 30 minutes every week for the next month with you to go over this because, if you guys are going to go on the journey with me, I can teach you some things.
And your role at Lineal. What is it?
My role is a strategy director. So I'm very much on the sales side. And I think about what I do as much about how can I teach someone something that they don't already know. Because if you're doing your job properly in sales, you've got to be offering that bit of education when a new product comes along. Which is not just to say, this product is amazing, we're doing this new thing, but the full story of, why is this important in someone's business long term, right? Like why are the switching costs bearable for me using a new tool or me making this decision to, train all my staff up in this entire new platform or whatever it might be? That requires an education around it. And so I think about what I do is I've got to be enthusiastic and have passion around artificial intelligence and all these things. But I have to be able to empathize and understand what's the client's pace and what do they realistically want to achieve with us in the first 12 months. And then maybe there are bigger and bolder goals. And that's really where the strategy part comes into it, right? What's the strategy of implementing this tool and this technology? And then building the relationship with the client to understand, in the next 18 months, given the nature of maybe the firm and how they're building out a particular practice group, or within a corporation, maybe there's a certain style of litigation they find themselves in, or they've got a greater challenge around information governance. That can only really be solved properly if I'm understanding what their strategy is and bringing in what we do to shape it around.
As you look to the next 6 months,
Yeah.
what are your top 3 e-discovery priorities? Or 1 or 2 or 4?
My top 3. Returning to normalcy and being able to sit down with people is probably the number 1. And that sounds kind of a little bit left field because it's not a sexy new technology, but I think that needs to come back with a bit of strength. So being able to sit down with people inside firms is the biggest thing that I'm hoping comes back and is able to build, because ultimately that gets us all back on track for things being back to a status quo. The next thing is I'm really interested to see who can take all the things that AI has been doing and put it into one single platform so that you've got less adoption, hurdles. So if you do bring on a whole new team, a review platform can say, okay, everything that you previously wanted to do in, the analysis of conversations to understand the narratives inside them and all that, I don't have to now do this bunny hop of moving data outside of my review platform into this, where I have to have people learn new things and how long is that going to take? It's all inside the one platform. So if you're searching in a search bar, you've got natural language behind that saying, okay, what is it you're really looking for in the data? Getting through it, culling it's much more efficient. I think that's where the big wins are going to be with AI over the next 12 months. How can you use this thing to get, abs without doing the sit-ups? So not necessarily getting as complicated as I possibly can and, like Bert's amazing and everything's amazing, but this stuff can be used to be able to just give people wins across the board and all the low-hanging fruit that's there. And that's been one big thing we focused on. How can we take the AI and just make all the stuff that makes someone's life hell, like finding bots in data, right? Mm-hmm. Like being able to just have mass cleanup and not have to worry about the review costs as much. AI can really lead the way there.
Any other examples of what you think of as low-hanging fruit to tackle early on?
So low-hanging fruit, I think of as something which is silly that it's not automated, And if you talk to any in-house counsel, they'll be able to come up with a bunch of things that just frustrate them day to day because they don't have enough manpower because they're a cost center, right? It's not like it's a law practice where you can put more of an argument towards investing in more people or certain things. So they're already thinking in low-hanging fruit terms quite often, right? Because their day-to-day isn't necessarily going to be about, how can I get as complicated as I can with looking at this matter? It's going to be, I've got 20 matters. They're all massive, enormous amounts of data. I've got maybe 30 vendors I'm dealing with for all different reasons. So the thing that's going to make that person's life way easier is if all the low-hanging fruit that makes that stress compound is taken care of. And then the 30 matters is something which is a little bit easier to deal with, right? And then suddenly they can have time to think about a more complicated use of a technology because you've removed all the stress around the quality control of what they do with data day in, day out through just having a more automated process of being able to, clean the data up at the start. Yeah.
If you could, I'd like you to put your thinking cap on.
Okay.
And imagine for yourself and then for me, your ideal e-discovery platform. And for these purposes, assume that nothing is impossible.
Okay.
There are no technological limits. There are no financial limits. The laws of physics have been suspended.
Ooh, quantum mechanics.
Whatever you would like. What would this look like?
How can I bring superposition into e-discovery?
There you go.
So I like to break, what we do and when we're thinking about like clients, like a corporate client or a law firm, to the most simple, basic thing, right? Like kind of like a first principles of problem solving. Mm-hmm. So we need to be able to handle data in different kinds and types and understand it, right? That's like the most basic thing. And then there's all sorts of different services and applications around that. And it could be like a legal billing person, or it could be an information governance thing. So I think about the future, the ultimate platform as being something which is kind of like an organism of intelligence inside a corporation, right? So you don't have data silos and the difference of, HR is over here and compliance is over here and this thing is all separate. Because the future of like a corporation and the value in its data, and there's a guy who wrote a book on this, it's really interesting. It's called Infonomics. And he talks about data as a capital asset. So if you start thinking about data as a capital asset, you start thinking about, well, all of this cost center data, surely there's value in it that we're not already finding, right? So if we're talking about artificial intelligence and, I want to reduce the amount of litigation that we have, or at least the amount of risk of litigation at my company that I'm managing, right? I don't have a whole lot of resources in terms of people to throw things at, so I've got to outsource to law firms and everyone else. The future is being able to have an organism or a platform that's able to feed from all of those different groups, data from HR, compliance, that you can then use to learn and build models and all those sort of things. But then it can then be used from that central platform to be able to monitor for risks. And then that information can enhance how they go about their litigation, because it's all in a central learning repository. So, for data to be truly a capital asset and understand everything that's happening inside of it, you can actually then provide really good value to the money-making side of the business, because you can understand who has the value with your major accounts. Right? Is it the salespeople? Is it the account management? Right? What are the risks that are happening internally to all of those? Right? Is the company exposed in some way, doesn't realize yet? But can only have that when all those silos are pulled apart and the cost center is thought of differently. Right? It's thought of as a library of information. If only we could access that information and understand, so we can make better decisions. And so we're in this sort of phase where I think eventually we get to that, but there's still some growing pains in, C-suites and executive leadership have to have full support plus board support for any AI initiative. McKinsey put out a report every year where they talk about, what makes an organization successful and how it implements AI. And any kind of enterprise effort, it has to have a few things going behind it that are really fundamental. One, the CEO has to see the value and drive the narrative with C-suite. The board has to back it. They have to be willing to invest and wait and have time to see that adoption happen. Every single, from what McKinsey, and they talk to maybe 3,500 CEOs when they do this annual AI report, every early adopter, whether they're corporate or, they could be using it in a consulting sense or whatever, is going to be ahead of their competition. It has proven to be ahead of their competition from whatever the metric is that they're measuring. So, if it's being able to make better use of the data, well, they will make better use of their data and be ahead of whoever they're competing against in that sense within a year or a bit longer, because in the process, everyone's going to be learning about what this technology is. People are going to be going along for the journey, and you're going to end up in a situation where, at the very least, you're on the same page for doing bigger and bolder actions and bigger and bolder things. So then suddenly when you start to enter into, 5 years down the track, 10 years down the track, and these data silos are actually being broken down, right? Because there's more necessity around it. It's too inefficient, right? There's too much risk in not knowing what's happening in all of your data. Then you have an organization that's had time to prep itself. It's had the support from above, so people feel like they're not being left out alone, and, go find all the AI stuff, learn about it, and then implement it. It's just ridiculous. Right. And that's where I see it going. But it does require that, an organization that says, okay, we're really going to invest in this and we back it. And we understand that it might, not be this glowing thing within the next 12 months or maybe 2 years. But the data is there that it will deliver.
That is the direction.
Yeah, forward is the battle cry. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, we have just a moment here, and I'd like to close with something you mentioned before we got on. You've got something coming up September 23rd.
Yeah, we do. So really, really exciting. We've got a new board, or a lot of new faces on the Chicago ACEDS board. And we're going to be having our first event Thursday, September 23rd. Reveal have been so kind as to be able to give us the space to be able to host it. It's going to be very interactive. It's going to be very fun. We're going to bring as many different people from, the e-discovery, lit support, litigation spectrum as we can, including, senior associates, lit support and e-discovery professionals, final year law students, really expand upon what the audience is at an ACED professional developer event. And it's going to be in a debating format. So we're going to have a couple of debates. We're going to have members from the audience come join us. It's meant to be fun. We're going to have a few different topics which teams are going to debate on the day. It's going to be, like you get 2 minutes each to raise what your point is. Everyone has a laugh, and then we have some drinks afterwards, and we're all really looking forward to it.
Sounds like it will be wonderful, and I very much hope I'm planning on attending.
I hope to see you there. It's going to be great.
So, Chip, thank you very much. Chip Delany is with Lineal Services. I am George Socha with Reveal. This has been eDiscovery Leaders Live. Please join us later today at 3:45 p.m. Pacific as we return then. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.